What's up, guys? It's your favorite Kiwi coach, and give me 6 months of your time. I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we have a Ricky Fowler versus Justin Thomas golf swing analysis. Who has the better golf swing? So if you're interested in these two players and you want to know the differences between these two golf swings, this is the perfect video for you, and let's go ahead and jump in. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you're too busy or you just can't make it out to our locations for lessons, Kiwi Golf Japan is the membership site for you. With over 250 plus videos of golf instruction, we have everything on the site you could possibly want. So go ahead and check out that link down below, and now let's get into the video. So like I said in the intro, this particular video is going to be Justin Thomas versus Ricky Fowler. Who has the better golf swing? We're going to be taking a look at not only that, who has the better golf swing, but also we'll be taking a look at some of the unique differences between these two golf swings, because I think these swings overall are quite drastically different. And then also we're going to be giving you guys some takeaway points. You know, both of these players have great positions at certain points throughout the golf swing that all of you guys should also be trying to copy as well. So we'll be highlighting that in this particular video. So to start out this video, let's go take a look at Justin Thomas's swing overall as first. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history about his golf swing background, and then we're going to do the same thing with Ricky Fowler as well. So when we take a look at Justin Thomas's golf swing, a lot of his golf swing is going to be pretty fundamentally sound. Now, the main reason because of this is his dad was his golf instructor, and his dad was a PGA professional in America, which just means his swing probably will be pretty textbook, right? Because his dad made sure to instill that into him. So a lot of the things you're seeing with the takeaway, a lot of the things you're seeing with the setup, the grip, most of the backswing, most of the downswing is going to be very fundamentally sound and pretty traditional in that sense. And the main reason for that, again, is because his dad is a PGA professional. Now, if you take a look at Ricky Fowler, who grew up in a slightly different household, right? The family was a little bit more into extreme sports like motocross. I'm sure he also had a golf instructor as well, though, Ricky Fowler. For the most part, I think Ricky Fowler's swing is probably a little bit more so unique, and it's a little bit more so his own than Justin Thomas. But Ricky Fowler did have Butch Harmon for most of his career, and I think they're still working together as well. So there's a lot of fundamentally sound movements in Ricky Fowler's golf swing as well. So I'm not trying to say that his golf swing is, hyper unique or anything, but it definitely, I think, is a little bit more on the unique side than, let's say, a Justin Thomas. So now that you guys got the basics out of the way about their history, let's go start out with the takeaway, because there's definitely a massive difference between the two takeaways between Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler. So starting with Justin Thomas, because he grew up in a PGA professional household, we're going to see that he has a very traditional one-piece takeaway, which just means the hand height is going to be right below the pocket, which is a very traditional position for the height of the hands when the club head is parallel to the ground. We're going to see the hands are positioned right on the toe line, which is going to be very traditional in the PGA handbook. And then from there, you're going to see the club head is directed right in line with the hands, which again is textbook PGA. That's exactly where you want to be. And for you guys watching at home, that's actually what I prefer as well. I really like this type of takeaway. Now, if we go take a look at Ricky Fowler, we're going to see a pretty different takeaway motion. So for the most part, when we get to position 2, we're going to see that the hand height is slightly lower than Justin Thomas. Now, not by a lot, but definitely a little bit on the lower side. And then positioning wise, it's a slight bit more inside than Justin Thomas's as well. And then we can see the club head is definitely more outside the hands. So you could argue that Ricky Fowler's takeaway at the current moment's a little bit more modern, you could almost say, just because a lot of people are liking this type of takeaway nowadays where the hands are slightly more inside, a little bit lower, trying to get the club head outside the hands while you're doing that. A little bit more of the modern takeaway these days, but for the most part, both of these takeaways I think are hyper functional and great takeaways. However, my personal preference is a little bit more on the Justin Thomas side. Now, if we take a look at the knee flex at the takeaway, this would definitely be another pretty big difference between the two as well. If we take a look at Ricky Fowler, he has quite a bit of knee flex at this point, where Justin Thomas is a little bit more extended at this point. And then also you could argue that Ricky Fowler's overall pelvis movement has not moved as much as Justin Thomas. Now, to be fair, Ricky Fowler is playing in Scotland right here, and it is kind of blowing pretty hard left to right. So he might be just trying to keep his balance by keeping his knees flexed and not really, opening the pelvis on the backswing as much. But for the most part, I've watched a lot of Ricky Fowler's golf swings, and this is a pretty, standard takeaway for Ricky Fowler. He definitely doesn't get as much extension or pelvis rotation as Justin Thomas would in general. Now, from here, going into position 4, the hand path movement is definitely going to be very different between these two players. So I definitely want to highlight that. So if we take Justin Thomas up to the top of the swing, this would be one of the first unique movements, in my opinion, that Justin Thomas does. Now, not all golf instructors is going to call this a unique movement, but definitely for me, I would say it is. So his hands are moving right around an 8-degree angle from position 2 to position 4, which just means that his hands are actually moving quite vertically up to the top, right? Some people might call that a two-plane swing. Call it what you want to call it. The hands are definitely moving a lot more vertical than Ricky Fowler's. Now, for me personally, if you guys have been in lessons, my range is actually a little bit closer to kind of this 20-degree range or a little bit less. But Justin Thomas definitely goes against the grain, at least in my personal preference at this point. Now, if we take a look at Ricky Fowler, we're going to see a much different hand path to the top of the swing. So if we take Ricky Fowler to the top now, we're going to see that the overall movement is much flatter of the arm to the top of the swing. So he's right around 14 degrees, which is almost twice as much as Justin Thomas. So if you think about it, Ricky Fowler started from a hand positioning at P2 a little bit more inside than Justin Thomas and took the top of swing movement much flatter than Justin Thomas, which overall means the overall arm position at the top is much flatter than Justin Thomas. So you could call it more so of a one-plane swing, or it's really more so the model swing I prefer to teach, which is, again, going to be the arm on the shoulder and not above the shoulder. So this would be a pretty drastic difference between the two, which also leads into the next conversation, which is going to be just the overall club shaft position, and we'll talk about the knees a little bit more. So as we get into the club shaft position, we can see that Justin Thomas is actually quite neutral here. So we're going to see that the club shaft is in line with the forearm. However, because the overall arm is so vertical, it does make the club shaft position seem a lot more vertical than Ricky Fowler's. But if we go ahead and draw the same line to Ricky Fowler, the club shaft position is not so far off. Yes, Ricky Fowler is definitely a lot more laid off than Justin Thomas, but, relatively speaking wise, only by about 10 to 20 degrees. So not like a massive, massive amount. But because the arm positions at the top are so drastically different, the overall visual appearance seems a lot flatter with Ricky Fowler than Justin Thomas, even though the club shaft relative to the forearms are actually quite close at this point in the golf swing. Now, you can also see quite visibly that Ricky Fowler definitely has a little bit more of an open face angle relative to a Justin Thomas. Now, typically for the most part, I think Ricky Fowler does play a fade for his stock shot, but I know he also plays both shots quite drastic or quite often as well. So it's interesting to see this face angle. Now, it could just be for the shot that he's playing. He is trying to, look like he's trying to play a little bit of a straight ball or a slight fade. Wind is coming off the left for Ricky Fowler's shot quite drastically. You can see the pin over here blowing quite a lot. So I've seen a lot of Ricky Fowler's golf swings, and for the most part, his face angle tends to pretty much match up to where it's matching up in this swing, slightly more on the open side relative to Justin Thomas, but definitely a difference there. All right, that's it for you guys on YouTube, but before you guys click off the video, let me give you some quick wrap-up points. So when it comes to the overall differences between these two swings, you can really sum it up by saying that Ricky Fowler, in the most part, is a little bit more on the flatter side with more of a vertical club shaft, where you could say that Justin Thomas is a little bit more on the steeper side with a little bit of a flatter club shaft. That's a very simplified way to kind of think about these two swings, but in general, that's kind of the differences between the two. Now, when it comes to some takeaway points for you guys on YouTube, I really like Justin Thomas's takeaway motion. I think it's very standard. It's something I like to teach all the time and something that you guys should try to be copying as well. Now, when it comes to actually P2 to P4, I actually think Ricky Fowler has a better motion in my personal opinion, and that would be something that I'd be looking for, to complete the backswing and something you should strive for. If you guys are continuing to struggle with your golf swings and you just can't get better, well, go ahead and check out the Kiwi Coach 6-month program. We would love to help you out. We're actually just launching our instructor Hiroshi-san very shortly here, and he actually has a waiting list as well. So if you want to get on Hiroshi-san's waiting list and actually get one of his lessons because they're going out really quickly, go ahead and get on that right now. There'll be a link down below. You can also sign up for my lessons, but I think we're pretty much sold out except for Osaka. We have a couple spots. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.